Welcome to Mind the Major, where I say use your mind, don't lose your mind, don't get left behind, become a mind. We family over here. I saw a very interesting video today, actually, and it kind of coincided with subject matter that I was speaking on in my last live broadcast a few days ago. And so I decided to make an actual video about this information that I just got today. And it appears that the state of Oregon doesn't, well, they basically decriminalize uh, illicit drugs for personal use. Like, it's like simple possession, whereas one is just using recreational, not just marijuana, but cocaine, heroin. As long as it's for personal consumption, they don't lock people up. They maybe get a fine, or maybe they have to go into some type of treatment, so on and so forth. Now, there was this guy that they actually interviewed. This, by the way, this was a Vice segment, and the guy in which they was talking to, when I saw this interview, his name is Carl Hart, and he's actually a doctor, okay? And he has a book called Drug Use for Grown-Ups. And what he was basically talking about was how it shouldn't be illegal for someone that is of age to use any form of narcotics, so to say, for personal use. You understand what I'm saying? But it went deeper. It went deeper than that. And what he was saying was, in actuality, to arrest someone and charge someone, and actually in some cases hold people for lengthy amounts of time for simple possession charges is really illegal in itself. And one might ask, well, if someone got caught with narcotics, how would it be illegal to hold them in jail for lengthy periods of time? Well, there are laws set in place. Let's just say rights. Americans have certain inalienable rights just by you simply being an American, such as the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Okay? Now, the pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of happiness. Now, if an adult chooses to use a mind-altering drug in his spare time, that should not be against the law, as long as he does it in a way to not trample on the rights of anyone else. It shouldn't be deemed as breaking the law. See, when you have something like that, it's like those that actually make those laws and put these rights forth have the ability to come and trample on them as they see fit. Oh, I know that's what we said, but that's not what we meant. You understand? So what is it they meant? See, one has to actually sit and think sometimes. Sometimes you have to actually sit and think. Although you might supposedly have all these rights and so on and so forth, as being a quote-unquote American citizen, you have to remember, America in itself is a capitalist country. You understand what I'm saying? So everything is about the bag.
Cash money.
You know? So that's just like their prisons. Prisons, who knew that at one point prisons would become industry? No one probably could have thought about that in the beginning when they started creating prisons. That prisons would actually become part of industry. And this is what happened. You know, during the years or whatever, it became big business. Prisons became big business. Now, when you make money off of something, you have to have a labor force. Okay? So, if people don't just have great uprisings every 2 seconds and everybody's killing people every 5.3 seconds, then you don't have a prison full of murderers. So if you got empty space in the prison, it has to be filled with something, someone. So therefore, you find those with the most petty of crimes sitting in actual prisons. They're not just sitting there to be sitting there or sitting there because of this, let's say, how would one put it? We care so much about society. We want to rid society of all negative elements. No, we have to have a workforce inside these prisons to cover these contracts or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of more contracts than you know are being awarded to prisons all the time. Especially if you have a company that pays the average worker $15 an hour, and you can get that same production from prisoners and pay that institution $7 or $8 an hour per person. And out of that $7 or $8 an hour, only 50 to 75 cents an hour trickles down to the actual prisoner. Why would what incentive would one have to hire someone on the outside? So you find more and more, you're going to start, mark my words, you're going to have, as long as these prisons keep being built, before you know it, you're going to see many more people locked up for things that they should not be locked up for. Parking tickets, things like that, just trivial stuff. Because if you take away, I mean, some of this got to go in another video because I'm kind of going left of the actual video that I intended to put out right now. But we were talking about drug use and recreational sense with adults. Now, I can see you maybe having things in place for younger people or whatever, but if it's an adult who wishes to use drugs or whatever in his spare time and he's not infringing on the rights of anyone else, then they should be allowed to do so. And there's been attempts, even here in Baltimore at one time, and this was years ago, former Mayor Kurt Smoke suggested that they decriminalize heroin, and I'm not sure, I think he said cocaine as well. You know, and a lot of people try to make it seem as if he suggested these things because it seemed that he had family members that were, let's say, addicted to substance, and it would have made it easier on his family members. But in all actuality, he probably saw it the same way Carl Hart saw it. You understand? I mean, and it only makes sense. It only makes sense the same way at one point alcohol was deemed illegal. Okay, but then they figured out a way to tax it, and now it's been legal for many decades. Many decades. But what they won't say is you have a lot of people who die annually from alcohol use. But it hasn't been, it hasn't been brought back forth and say, oh, should we criminalize alcohol again? No, because it's too big of a business, But cigarettes, the same way. As long as it's done by consenting adults. Just like you have to buy alcohol, you have to be over 21. In order to buy cigarettes, you got to be over 21. If one wants to use illicit drugs, now I mean, if they're over 21, and then so be it. Like I said, as long as they're not infringing on the rights of others. You understand what I'm saying? But it's a lot of things that go with that, but I don't want to jam, like I said, I don't want to jam this video up with the other stuff that thinking about. That'll be another video, maybe a part 2 to this whole thing. But my thing was, what do you guys think? Do you think that other states should file suit? File a suit and start to decriminalize other illicit drugs such as heroin and cocaine for use, recreational, for adults. For adults, I stress that, for adults, recreational use. You know what I'm saying? Because it only makes sense, because you have a lot of these people who actually preach criminal Jesus Christ, y'all see that? And I don't do the outtake thing. You know what I mean? They preach the criminalization of these drugs. But then they'll be using them practically, maybe high as a ham sandwich, when they're talking against these things. So when you see the news and you see this senator caught up in this and this congressman caught up in this and drugs are involved, that's because you have so many people, especially in politics and entertainment. You know what I mean? You go to they go to them big parties, and trust and believe me, any drug that you can probably think of is there at those parties, and they indulge in them. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like the old NWA song. Some musicians cuss at home, but scared to use profanity, went up on the microphone. Yeah, they want reality, but you will hear none. They rather exaggerate a little fiction. Some say no to drugs and take a stand. But after the show, they go looking for the dope man. So just believe. Just believe. Just like when they get arrested, and the first thing their lawyer will say when they go to court is, Your Honor, my client was only using, the heroin that was found on his person for recreational use. And looking for some leniency, on behalf of the congressman, of the senator. So if it's good for the congressman or the senator, it should be good for the average Joe. What say you? What say you? Does it at least deserve a trial run? Just to see if it would help the situation? Or do we let the system stay as it is and let them keep getting to the bag?
Cash money.
Or merely keep locking the average Joe up because he merely wanted to chill out with a bag. I want to end this video off. I want to give some special thanks out. You know what I mean? I want to salute Carl Hart for that interview I watched earlier. And I want to give a special shout out to 410 Doug, my man Johnny Legs in Australia, and Shred Rat in Missouri for tapping in with me on with my last live broadcast. You know what I mean? Making things interesting. And most of all, I want to give a special shout out to Dawman. You know, the one that makes the Dawman videos. I'm really hooked on those videos. I really enjoy those videos. But I happened to catch one earlier today, and sometimes I question myself about putting out videos myself. Sometimes I be like, why do I keep doing this? And don't nobody really be paying attention to what I be saying or this, that, and the third. And he had one on earlier that resonated with just the way I was feeling, and what it merely said is everybody don't move at the same speed. So sometimes you have to have a little patience. And that's one thing I have. You know what I mean? So special shout out to Dawg, man. Keep putting them videos out because you definitely changing lives. I'm going to take this one out by saying great minds think alike. And everybody has greatness in them. You never know when somebody's going to come along and pull that greatness up out of you. So till the next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. It's your boy C Major. 2 in the air.